All right, so the recording has started, so everyone in the session should be aware that we are being recorded. So thank you for joining us again. The live panel session or the live Q&A session includes a number of panelists, and in case you're interested and have a lot of fun in this one, the next live Q&A session will be Friday at 1 p.m. So welcome. So today's panelists include Dr. Tom Edwards, our provost, Lisa DeSaltis-Peliquin, our Vice President of Student Affairs, Chris Rhoda, VP of Information Services, Corey Pelletier, Senior Director of Career and Professional Development, Janine Ross, Senior Director of Student Financial Services, and I'll call on you and ask you to introduce yourself and say a little bit about what you do. So, Tom.
Great. My name is Tom Edwards. As Debbie said, I'm the provost, the chief academic officer here at the college, and so one of my primary responsibilities is to oversee the academic progression toward a student's degree, faculty, courses, requirements, all of the academic pieces, kind of what takes place inside the classroom. But as you'll hear during the course of the afternoon, that dividing line is not so clear because you'll hear from Corey Pelletier about career services and internships, which can become part of your academic experience. And with Lisa DeSaltis-Peliquin, we work sort of hand in hand, student affairs and academic affairs for inside and outside the college classroom in terms of meeting the college mission and preparing students for success in their personal and professional lives and leadership and service in their communities.
Thank you, Tom. Lisa.
Good afternoon. I'm Lisa DeSaltis-Peliquin, the Vice President for Student Affairs. So as Tom said, I oversee the life outside the classroom that really complements your academic experience. So we know that health, wellness, safety, your res life experience, your student activities, I oversee health services and counseling, but also, making sure that from a leadership and service that we're complementing the mission and the experiences that you have academically, that you're feeling well, that you're doing well, and that we're supporting you as a whole student. So those areas fall under student affairs. Thank you. Chris.
My name is Chris Rhoda. I'm the Vice President for Information Services on our campus that encompasses both IT services or technology and library services, the information aspect. And this is everything from technology in res halls, technology in offices, technology in classrooms, and information in all of those areas as well. So, welcome.
Thank you. Corey.
All right. My name is Corey Pelletier. I oversee the Professional and Career Development Office. Me and my team, we work with students all the way from first year, integrating them into our services, exploring different career paths, getting ready for internships, jobs. We do a lot with the Guaranteed Job program here at Thomas, but really try to start with students day one. To get them involved. We have a first year seminar course that I'll probably touch upon in answering some questions later on. But we really get you in that pipeline early on, get you introduced to our office, and work with you all the way up through internships and preparing for that job. So looking forward to answering some questions and helping everybody out today.
Thanks, Corey. Last but not least, Janine.
Hi, my name is Janine Ross. I am the Senior Director of Student Financial Services at Thomas. I oversee all aspects of a student's financial life. So I take care of financial aid awards, scholarships, work study. I also oversee the billing office. So we take care of things like payment plans, additional student loans, trying to set up arrangements so that you can take care of your balances, or if you have questions on that we can help you in the best way that is feasible for your family. And we look forward to speaking with you.
Thanks, Janine. And I'm Debbie Cunningham, Vice President of Student Success. I work with JMG, TRIO, and our Student Success Center, which includes our Early Start program here at Thomas. So I'm going to encourage folks to go ahead and warm up and start using the chat area to ask some questions. But I have received some questions ahead of time, which is great. And Chris, it looks like the first one goes to you. What kind of laptop does a student need?
That's a great question. We primarily use Windows computers at Thomas because 95% of the world uses Windows computers in business. And so we recommend a specific Dell laptop that we buy ourselves for the college, that we give to our faculty and staff and put in our classrooms and our libraries. And that laptop is a commercial grade laptop. It's only $780, but it is an i5 processor, 16 gig of RAM, and 256 gig SSD hard drive. So it's designed to be a 4 or 5 year machine. It comes with a 3-year warranty. And Dell lets us, fortunately, because we buy so many of them, lets us give incoming students and their parents the same price that we pay for them. So if you want to know more about that, you can go to dell.com/Thomas.
Thanks, Chris.
Sure.
And Lisa, I also have a question for one of your areas. When will students hear about roommate assignments and housing placements?
Right, great question for our resident students. Although for our commuters, if you're interested in housing, it's never too late to make that decision as well. That's my plug. So for roommates, as a resident student, you should have received information to complete an online lifestyle questionnaire. So you want to go ahead and submit that and be as open and honest about some of your preferences in terms of what you like, when you go to bed early, go to bed late, hobbies or what have you. Our residence life staff will then utilize that to match folks and look at what your preferences are and begin to do housing assignment. They'll work on that the end of June. The college is closed the first week of July, so you should get your placement just shortly after the July 4th break. If you are requesting a particular roommate, you want to live with somebody, please make sure that you list that on your questionnaire and that person also lists you so that the housing office hears from both parties that they're agreeing to live together. If you've already submitted your lifestyle questionnaire, you can go ahead and email either myself or email Hannah Gladstone, our Dean of Students, with your housing preference at that point, and she will work with assigning roommates.
Thanks, Lisa. So Corey, I have a question from folks about when students should think about getting internships.
Sure. Students can earn credit for internships. So students can start earning credit once they've completed at least 60 credits. There's a GPA requirement as well. But I don't discourage students from looking for internships as early on as possible. So as soon as you have an idea of maybe a direction that you might want to go, I say let's get going and look for opportunities that are going to help you move in that direction and experience it. The earlier on you can figure out a pathway or a pathway that's not good for you, the better off you'll be.
We have a question. Thanks, Corey. We have a question in the chat room about, and Janine, it looks to be in part from in your area. Who should a student talk to about GI Bill and using that toward tuition?
Sure. So in our office, we are a combined office. So it's actually Student Financial Services and Registrar office. So the Registrar part of the office actually takes care of any of our VA benefits or GI Bill. The two staff members that can help you with that are Michelle Yates or Amanda Favreau. And Michelle's email is just michelle.yates@thomas.edu, and Amanda's would be amanda.favreau@thomas.edu.
Great, thank you. Another question I have, Lisa, for your areas. What's the role of safety and security on campus, and what is the blue light system?
Right. So our campus safety and security is 24/7, 365. We have an officer who's on call or on duty on the campus. They really do what I call kind of that community relations. They do a lot of foot patrol, walking the campus, being a lot of prevention and proactive. They can provide escorts. If you're locked out, they'll assist you there. So really looking to be proactive on our campus. They're first responders, so they'll respond whether there's a medical emergency or fire safety. They are trained as first responders for our campus as well. Our blue light system, there are blue lights that are located on the exterior around parking lots and throughout the campus. It's really an emergency system. So if something is coming up for you, you're in a parking lot and maybe you don't have your phone and you want security to give you an escort back to your res hall, if you hit a blue light, they will come immediately to that area. Or maybe you're in around a blue light and somebody falls or there's a medical emergency. Again, you don't need to call them. You can hit the blue light and an officer will dispatch right there.
Thank you, Lisa. So while we wait for other questions to pop into the chat room, I'll continue to share the questions that have been given to me ahead of time. So Tom, this is one for your area. What is an elective versus what are major requirements for your degree?
Sure. College degree is composed of a total of 40 courses that students complete over either 3 years if they're in the Case Morgan program or 4 years in a traditional 4-year progression. And those 40 courses are split up into 3 basic buckets. The first bucket would be the major. So if you're in psychology or in accounting, those would be the courses that you would take toward your accounting degree, toward your sport management degree, your criminal justice degree. One of the other buckets will be what's called general education, and these are courses that everybody at the college takes. These are courses in English and history and math, public speaking. These are the courses that we think are really critical for all graduates, regardless of their major, to be successful and to continue to be able to make progress beyond that first entry-level job. So the general education is 1/3, the major is 1/3, and then that last 1/3 of courses students can use for a minor. They can look at a double major, or they can be electives, which are courses that are open for them to pick and choose in different areas that are of interest to them. So we try to make sure that students have plenty of credits available in the 3 areas, and that there are elective credits that they might apply toward an internship through Corey's area. They might apply those to a specific area that they're interested in or they like the professor. And sometimes choices in electives lead students to change their major, and then we recalibrate those. All of those credits are reflected in a student's program sheet. And so later on this summer, when you get your information from the registrar's office that shows your major and the courses that you're registered for the fall in your draft schedule, you'll begin to see how the mix of courses in your very first semester usually will include a first 2 courses in your major, 1 or 2 general education courses, and maybe 1 or 2 electives. And this provides a student the opportunity to get started on their degree, to test some of the other things that might be out there, because we know and we hope that through your college education, your perspective on the world and on yourself may change as you get to know more about what you like and what you don't like, where your interests lie. So the 3 basic buckets again are major, general education, and electives. And then there's always a fair amount of transfer back and forth between those. And that's where your advisor comes in handy, because you can have those conversations with your advisor and say, I'm in criminal justice, but I'm thinking of psychology. How would that impact my courses that I'm taking? And early on in your program, you may find that the courses that you took in one area will certainly apply in the other.
Thank you, Tom. And the next question actually goes to you as well. When do entering students sign up for classes?
So on the website that you access all this information about advising and orientation, you'll find information there where you can begin to put in your preferences for electives. There'll be lists of electives. There'll be areas where you can indicate your preferences for course times. The registrar's office will take all that information And beginning in early July, around July 8th through the 17th, students will start getting emails from the registrar's office that will contain a draft schedule. That draft schedule then will also include your program sheet, how to order books, contact information for your advisor, and contact information for the registrar's office. So in the first 2 weeks of July, after the July 4th holiday, students will start getting that draft schedule. They'll have the ability to take a look at that, and in consultation with their advisor or with the registrar's office, if they see a need to make adjustments or changes, or if we find out that there's extra information, maybe you got extra credit that came in through a dual enrollment course or transfer course, that we want to make adjustments to that schedule. So when the fall starts, we have a good schedule for you that's going to meet your needs.
Thank you. Lisa, a question that I think probably is best for you to answer for us. Should the pandemic continue for the year, would we need to wear a mask around campus and follow health guidelines?
We would. So Thomas's plan is to bring our students and our community to on-campus learning starting in the fall. We are working hand in hand with Maine CDC, the state epidemiologist, and Governor Mills' office to see what that specific guidelines will be. Health and safety of our community is paramount. So right now on our campus, we're required to wear masks. If that's the guideline for the fall and that's the best practice to mitigate the virus, then we would be doing that as well and practicing social distancing and good hand hygiene and everything else. That really means that not only looking out for ourselves, but looking out for each other. And I think that's key on a small community. So we will follow those guidelines as prescribed by the state.
Thank you, Lisa, and we appreciate you keeping a close eye on those things for us. So other questions that I've received, Janine, I have someone who's very interested in knowing when bills are due.
So bills are sent July 16th. Bills are sent July 16th and they are due August 10th. And usually by due, we mean that you have to have something in place with our office. So they don't necessarily need to be paid in full by August 10th, but we would like you to have either been in contact with our office about setting up a payment arrangement, already have a student loan in place, have a signed payment plan in place, but have basically been in contact and we know that you're either working on something or you have funds arriving in the future.
Thank you, Janine. So Tom, we have another question for your area. We have a student who has collected enough early college credits for a full semester. And that student is interested in getting some additional credits to see if he can get even further ahead.
So that's a great question. When students begin to list what their preferences are on the website, so that we can begin to set up your schedule, it's really important for us to know if you have those early college credits. So please make sure that you list that information when you go into the website, so we know what kind of dual enrollment, transfer, AP credit, any of those kinds of things that you're going to be bringing with you. We will apply those credits if they fit in your degree template and use those as ways to help you accelerate your degree. So we look for transfer credit from other institutions to have a grade of C or better. So we want to make sure that it's high quality college work, but most of what we see from students coming in meets that criteria. For students who are interested in continuing to accelerate, there are a few options at Thomas. If they qualify for the early start programs, they can contact Debbie Cunningham's office. I'm not sure how many seats are still available there, or whether there's a wait list. The other thing I would alert students to at this point in time is I'm aware that some of the community colleges in the state of Maine have offered free online courses over the summer. And if students qualify for those, I would encourage you, if you can complete courses that would meet degree requirements at Thomas College, and you can complete them for free at one of the community colleges or through the University of Maine system, we'd be more than happy to welcome those credits here at Thomas. And that would save you money and it help you accelerate the progress toward your degree. If you're having questions about those specific courses and whether they apply to your program, go into the web portal, pose that question to the registrar. They'll take a look at the course and they'll get right back in touch with you. And earlier in the chat, there were the email addresses for both Amanda Favreau and Michelle Yates. And so you can email them as well if you have a specific question about those kinds of credits. So we do see on a regular basis, more than 40% of the students that entered Thomas last fall brought early college credit with them. So we anticipate that that number may be even higher this year. So we like to look at students who are motivated, who are anxious to get started on their degree and begin to make progress. And then what we'll do is with those credits, when we know about those, that will help us establish a really effective course schedule for you for the fall term. So if you're a psych major and you already have taken intro to psych, let us know that, so then we'll put you in a course in developmental psych or some other psych course that is further along in your program sheet.
Thanks, Tom, and I appreciate the shout out about early start. We do have an active waiting list for early start. We are accepting applications until the end of June. So if you are interested in participating, we do encourage you to apply as soon as possible. And how to contact Ashley Fecto is our EDGE coordinator is on your resource list for folks. So we're currently full, but sometimes people find out that they have other opportunities and they pursue those. So if you want to be on the list, you need to apply. So next question goes to Corey. So Corey, how soon should a student start working with career and professional development? And that's a question I think maybe where I would ask you to also maybe talk a little bit about first year experience seminar.
Sure. Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, definitely as soon as you can. One thing here at Thomas is we do have that first year seminar that a majority of those students coming in the fall will be placed in. Within that course, roughly about half the course ties directly into career development. So we're starting to initiate and develop a personal and professional development plan that you can use to follow through your time here and kind of get steered in the right direction. So as early as possible. We all know there's a lot of things going on when you first step on campus, from classes to a new roommate to what do I do, where do I go, where do I eat, new teachers. So career should be in your mind, but it's not that most important thing when you step on campus. But once things settle in, definitely getting on board and getting to know your career coach here at Thomas would be beneficial for you.
Thanks, Corey. And we have some folks that are joining the session. So just by ways of reminder, please mute yourself. We are using the chat function in Teams to submit questions. So we welcome your question. Just put it right there in the chat section and we'll be happy to ask one of the panelists to address it. And also as a reminder, this session is being recorded for possible use for students who weren't able to attend. The next question I have, I think, Chris, I'm going to ask you to think about addressing it, please. It has to do with how students know how to purchase books, but I think there's a larger My Thomas question in there as well.
Yeah, so we have a system called My Thomas available to all the students. And in that system is everything from your financial aid information, your bills, your grades, warnings. We have forms in there that you fill out. There's information that you can tell us if you change your address, phone number, all kinds of things. And in there, after you get placed in courses, you'll be able to get a class list, your course schedule. And in that course schedule at the bottom will be a link that says, show me the books. And it will take you to our online bookstore. It will give you all the options. You can purchase, rent, you can get those online or physical, in a physical format. And it will tell you course by course exactly which books you would need. So My Thomas, if you haven't been there, just go to the Thomas webpage and either at the top or the bottom, you'll see a My Thomas link. Make sure you sign up there and start using that as soon as possible.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
And again, I want to invite questions from the group, and feel free to use that chat area for that purpose. So Chris, I have another question for your area, and that is, how's the Wi-Fi at Thomas?
Wi-Fi. So I get asked that a lot. That's usually the number one thing students want to know. We have great Wi-Fi at Thomas. We have one of the newest Wi-Fi networks around. We have Wi-Fi 5 campus-wide, and Wi-Fi 6, which just came out a few months ago, we've already started to deploy in some areas like our library. So we have great coverage inside and outside buildings. We recently had some faculty asking about having outside classes, probably as a way to social distance. So we're making sure that we even have outside maps where faculty know they can go to have an outside class and still get on our network. In addition to that, I just want to mention, for those of you who haven't already, you should have received in the last week or so an email from us with your Thomas email address, a username and a password, and lots of information there. If you didn't receive that, please let us know. Please go through your different folders, inbox, junk folders, whatever, to find that. But we really want you to start using your Thomas email. Hopefully get that configured on your smartphone or laptops, because we're going to use email a lot to communicate with you this summer, and we want you to connect in with your Thomas system, get our emails, be able to communicate to us as well. So if you haven't done that yet, please try to do that soon. And we have a service desk that is staffed during the day, 8 to 4, and they can help you with any questions you have setting that up.
Thank you, Chris. So Lisa, I have a question about how does a student get information about what the different clubs and groups offer?
You can get that information in a variety of ways. There's some information listed on the website under Student Affairs and our Student Life Office. You can get that information in our student handbook, and there's also a form that's on your My Thomas as part of this, your new student kind of to-do list that has just a whole list of clubs and groups that are currently active at Thomas. So you can check off which ones you're interested in and submit that form. It'll go to Michael Sales, who's our Senior Coordinator of Activities and Student Life. Michael will give that form to the club leadership and their advisors so that they know that you're interested. It does not mean that you're signing up right now and you've committed. It just means that those folks know that you're interested if they're doing some outreach in the fall. Some of them may begin to do some outreach over the summer as well. If you take a look at that and you're noticing that maybe there's a club or a group that you're interested in that isn't really reflected there, then certainly contact Michael, or you can contact Jim Delory, our Assistant Dean of Engagement. Either one of them can talk to you about the process for seeing if there are other students that are interested, and if there are, maybe starting a new club here at Thomas, which tends to happen each year. We tend to have a club or two that starts new with an incoming student, and some that maybe were passions of some folks who graduated that maybe take a little hiatus for a while. So we're small enough that things can be really pretty fluid, and students have the ability to start clubs and groups.
I've seen students have a great experience with that, Lisa, and it really adds to our campus when they step up in that way.
Absolutely. And I think it also helps in leadership development and knowing, because you don't have to do it alone, right? We can mentor you in how to start a club. What does a club charter look like? An advisor will work with you on that as well. So it's a great leadership opportunity, and you don't have to have been involved in high school. You can go ahead and do that here.
Great. So Lisa, I have a question about parking permits on campus.
If you're a resident student or a commuter, we do not have a restriction that anybody can bring a vehicle to campus. I know that sometimes that's a question of, can I have a car? Yes, you can. You'll get an email that will ask you to register your vehicle. When you register that vehicle, that information goes to our safety and security office, and they'll issue you a parking decal when you arrive to campus. And that'll let you know what particular areas you can park in. If you're a resident, your lot is typically right by your residence hall. And if you're a commuter, you would park in the open general areas of campus. We just ask that that be registered so we have it on file. If you know you're taking more than one vehicle, maybe you share a vehicle when you're coming to campus, go ahead and let them know that as well so we can get each vehicle a decal.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. And then also for your area, Lisa, as a representative for health and safety for our campus, when are students going to be able to actually come back to campus?
So we're phasing our campus now, actually. We have staff that has been here since March, our essential staff. This week, we started bringing some additional staff back to campus. Our students will return in August. I think our first students scheduled to return will be our RAs. The resident assistants will come in about the beginning of the third week of August, and then our early start students are scheduled, I think, for move-in on the 26th, followed by our preseason athletes and orientation leaders, and then our new students as a whole will move in on the weekend of Labor Day. So we are a phased move-in approach, and that information would come back. If you're moving in as a resident, that information will come from housing, your specific times and location. And as a commuter, you would come either for the early start program preseason or to the orientation program. You'll have specific times to check into campus as well.
Thank you, Lisa. So Janine, I have a question about work study and how somebody applies for work study.
Sure. Can you hear me fine? Okay, so work study, basically you can apply for that the very first day of school with the Student Financial Services Office. We post all open positions on the bulletin board right outside of our office, and we also post them on the Thomas College public webpage under financial aid and work study positions. Basically, a student that's interested in work study would contact either myself or Tim Russo, who is the Assistant Director of Financial Aid. We'll be able to check the eligibility based on the FAFSA that you submitted. And then we would give you a form that shows that you are eligible for work study. You would then take that form to the supervisor that is listed next to the position that you are interested in, and they'll continue the process with you. Some supervisors require a short interview to get to know you a bit. Some supervisors do a first come, first serve. It's completely up to that department. Once you're hired, you would bring back the eligibility form signed by that supervisor that they hired you, and you would do the payroll information with our office. And then just like every employee that works at Thomas, you would get paid bi-weekly direct deposit.
Thank you, Janine. That's really helpful. So I have a basic advising day question, and I'll field part of it. And then Lisa, I'm going to ask you to address part of it. The question has to do with, what if I forget some of my forms? And some of those forms we're going to be able to remind you about fairly easily and ask you to get them done. Some forms are do need to be printed and mailed in, and it is very important that you submit those forms. So Lisa, can you talk about health forms and how that information gets submitted?
Yeah, your health forms will be forms that you'll print and submit. You'll be looking to submit your immunizations. That's a state requirement from the state of Maine. You need to have your 2 doses of MMR, measles, mumps, rubella, and a tetanus within the last 10 years. And so that doesn't have to be on our particular form. You can just submit your vaccination form or whatever you have from your primary care or whatever you have on record. Those would get submitted directly to the health center. In order to utilize the health center, you need to have a health history, which is a form you can complete yourself and mail in. And then you need a physical within the last year. And so that you would have your primary care or whoever is doing your physical submit that form. Again, we have a basic template form. If your primary care who is doing your physical has a printout that covers the same areas, that's usually sufficient. So you'll want to have all of those on file in the health center. I think the date is the beginning of August, so that if you have specific health needs or health concerns while you're here on campus, you'll want to connect with our Director of Health Services and make sure that you are working with her so that we can address that while you're here as well. So those are pretty firm in terms of particularly the immunizations and particularly going into this year as well. We would recommend, and they're recommended, that you have your flu shot and meningitis. Those are recommended, those are not required.
Thanks, Lisa. So Tom, I have a question that I received earlier. How do students know their grades during the semester?
So unlike many high schools that have an infinite campus or places where faculty members automatically post their grades online, that's at the college level, that's really up to the individual instructor. They distribute a syllabus at the beginning of the semester that outlines how students' grades are going to be determined, whether it's based on exams or papers, class participation, group work, whatever it might be. So the best way for students to keep track of their academic progress in the class is to be able to refer to the syllabus to track their grade, and they can always check in with their faculty members to what they might be earning in the course at any given time. So some faculty members will post grades in Moodle, which is our online learning management system, but not all do. So you can't necessarily rely on Moodle to track your grades. You'll need to work with that individually with each individual instructor. We do ask faculty members to issue early warnings for first-year students and warnings for all students in general at different points in the semester. And we encourage that if students get a warning, the faculty member normally will include a note about that, which will go to the advisor as well. And it gives the student a heads up. You might not have done well on your first exam, or you might be missing too much class. I'd encourage you to do a little bit better in your homeworks, whatever that might be. And that's designed to give the student more information about how they can take some proactive steps to do well and improve their academic standing.
Thank you, Tom. So I want to remind folks that you can use the chat function to submit questions and that today's session is being recorded. So Lisa, I have a question about how does someone who has had a 504 plan in high school make sure that Thomas is aware of what they need?
Yeah, great question there, because that was going to be on my plug at the end if I didn't get it. So thank you for being proactive. If you used an IEP or a 504 or any sort of accommodations in high school, you need to, that does not get automatically sent over with your transcript from the high school. I think sometimes people think that their whole file does. So the high school would not send that over. You need to submit that specifically to me if you're looking to utilize any sort of accommodations here. Once I receive your information, I'll set up a time to chat with you individually and talk about what your specific concerns are or needs, how we can mirror that here and help you, whether that's inside or outside the classroom. It could be a physical, a dietary, a health need. So we want to make sure that the earlier you can get me that information and identify, then I can begin to work with you. It doesn't mean that if you don't bring that forward until October that we're not going to work with you, but the earlier we can, the better position you'll be to have a plan for your own success or your own well-being while you're here at Thomas. So please reach out to me. If for some reason you don't have access to that 504 or IEP, but you used accommodations, don't let that be the barrier. Contact me and get that connection going, and we'll work on how to get whatever documentation we might need. But the first key piece is for me to hear from you that you're going to look to use or you're considering an accommodation. That is not some information that I would have or that the high school is sending to me. So thanks.
Thanks, Lisa. So, Tom, I have a question that if somebody's already taken a class that they needed for, that shows on their program sheet as part of their first semester courses, what do they do? Do they just take something from the second semester?
So that's where we'll encourage people to be in contact with the registrar's office and to list that information in the online portal where students are indicating there's a prompt there, a question for students to let us know if they've taken a course, if they have a dual enrollment, advanced placement, whatever it might be, transfer credit. So the earlier we know about that, and we will get we're asked for an official transcript from the institution that gave that credit. So similar to what Lisa just mentioned, that if we have your high school transcript and it indicates that you've completed a college course, that is helpful information for us, but by itself, it's not the official documentation that we need, which has to come from the college itself. But certainly what we'll do then is we'll ask you to get that transcript to us. And as soon as we get that transcript with a grade of C or better, that will be posted to your degree sheet as having been completed. and then the registrar will look to register you for the next course in the sequence. So if you, for example, have already completed the equivalent of our English Composition 1, and that document, that transcript gets to our office, then we'll have you registered for a Composition 2 or perhaps a lit course down the road, whatever it might be. So we encourage people to let us know what courses they may be taking, may have already completed, and that helps us plan the sequence of courses that a student might need.
Thanks, Tom. So Janine, I have a student with a question about how the insurance waiver works.
Is online now. So basically you would log into the My Thomas account that we spoke of earlier. The insurance waiver is actually a two-step process. So the first piece of it is under the profile link on your My Thomas page. You can find a place to choose, would you like to waive insurance? Yes, no. Would you like to take our yearbook? Yes, no. And it will also give you the option to choose the meal plan that you'd like if you're going to be residing on campus with us. Then the next step for insurance is to fill out the waiver through our insurance carrier's insurance portal. It's actually not live yet. We're still working on it. We are hoping to have it live by the end of the week. But in this portal, you will submit the insurance coverage that you do have, either through yourself or your state or your parents. Then our insurance carrier will provide a list of those students to our office, and we'll be able to remove the charge from the student bill. So if you do have your own insurance or are covered by somebody's insurance, you definitely want to make sure that you do that option.
Thank you, Janine. So as a follow-up question to that, Janine, I have a student who says, what happens if I get a community scholarship and the check doesn't come before the start of classes?
Sure. So most outside scholarships, community scholarships, scholarships through organizations actually come in the spring term. Every so often they will come in the fall, but most of them will come in the spring. So it's a pretty common practice, and we're used to that. So we do ask that any student that receives a scholarship from an outside source, that they submit either the letter they received confirming they're getting that scholarship, or the certificate they received that confirms that they're getting that scholarship. Then basically we'll follow up with that scholarship agency when it comes time at the end of the fall term if needed, and provide them grades if they need it, a bill if they need it, and we'll make sure that the check either gets to us here at Thomas or to you as the student.
Awesome. Thanks for taking care of all those things for our students, Janine. I think it's really important for them that they have you to help them through that process. Okay, so we have reached the quarter hour. We do want to make sure that we respectfully wrap up before 6 o'clock. So I'm going to begin to ask each one of the panelists to give us any last bit of information or last words that you may have for the students that are, or family members that are in the session. If you still have this last minute questions, go ahead and post them in the chat between the panelists. I'm happy to continue to pepper them with questions. So we're going to go in reverse order of how we introduced ourselves. So Janine, instead of being last, why don't you be the first one to give us kind of your last word for the students tonight?
Sure. So definitely the Student Financial Services Office is looking forward to working with all the students. Absolutely, for the Student Financial Services Office, if you are worried about finances at all, or if you think you have the smallest question, it might actually be really important, feel free to reach out to us. It's what we're here for. We want to make sure that we can make your dream of coming to Thomas a reality, and that finances aren't a roadblock for you. And we love talking to you about any concerns or any information you might want to share with us. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we look forward to working with you.
Thanks, Janine. Corey.
Great. No, I just wanted to say thank you very much for everybody who joined us today. I know all of you are very excited to get going, and I'm equally as excited for all the students to come back to campus and to get going and to help organize everything to match up those interests with those careers and those in your academics and everything that you're going to do here. And I'm really excited for me and my team to be able to work with you on that. So thank you for joining us today, and please reach out to me if you have any questions.
Awesome, thank you. So before we move to Chris for his last words, we do have a question, Janine, about whether or not there are any available eSport team scholarships.
And so we do have an esports scholarship. Most of the scholarships for esports were packaged in a student's financial aid package already. So if you didn't see that in your financial aid award, please feel free to email me after this or send me a chat through Teams after this, and I'll look at that specific scenario.
And Lisa, would you like to, just for those who may not be aware, tell us what esports is?
So, and I was going to actually clarify as well. So esports runs through our recreation area, but it is a recruited sport. Martin Shellison is our coach. He's a full-time coach here for esports. He's an international player himself, and so brings to us a lot of depth of experience and knowledge. Our team will be competing in their second full year next year, starting this fall. So our new students will be joining a current roster of experienced students, and they compete in the ECAC, which is a collegiate esports league that is national. And they compete in, I can't even tell you all the teams because that's just not the things I know, but I know it's like Fortnite and some of the others. But our students have a location called the Cave on campus where they compete with high tech and computers, and it's a wonderful way to engage. I just want to make sure that because we offer scholarships for esports, that we are clear that we are a Division III NCAA team division, and that we do not offer athletic scholarships under that. So sometimes people wonder if esports was a Division III NCAA, why we were offering a scholarship. It is very separate, and esports does not run through athletics. Just as a clarifier there.
Thanks, Lisa. So Chris, thanks for being patient. Any last words for the students?
Sure, just a couple of quick things that I often get asked. The first is I'd like to make sure all the students know that they do not need to purchase Microsoft Office. This is part of your tuition and fees. We bundle it in. And with that username and password that we sent you a week or so ago, you can access our site now, and you can download that software on up to 5 personal devices for as long as you're a student at Thomas. So please don't go buy Microsoft Office. That'll save you a few $100s right there. Also, I often get asked about printers in res hall rooms. And we have printers all over campus in public spaces, computer labs, library, in res hall lounges. And so we generally say you don't really need your own printer. If you want, you can bring that. But I think you'll find that there's lots of printing all over campus. We also allow free 500 pages per semester of printing as well. So you don't have to worry about paying for toner and paper and all of those other things. And last but not least, if you Janine talked about work study earlier. If you're in the area of looking for a job on campus, whether it's work study or not, my department, Information Services, has lots of positions in that area, many of which are working in our service desk, which helps other students with technology and information questions. And so if you're interested in that, just contact me after this as well. We'll get you plugged in there. Thanks.
Awesome. Lisa.
Yeah, so there's Chris recruiting again. We have work study as well. But anyway, I have a couple of things just to highlight. Certainly, the forms are important. So I'm going to plug your health forms, especially this year. Those are going to be really critical for us, and accommodations to reach out and let me know how I can best help you. Those are two huge pieces for me in trying to make sure that we're taking care of you the right way and the best we can. A question that sometimes we do get asked that wasn't asked today, so I will put it out, is what size refrigerator if I'm in a res hall? 2.9 is the max on there, and yes, you can have a Keurig. So that's important too for those of you who drink coffee. I'm going to put a shameless plug in before we end today. Our orientation leaders are 9 upper class students who have been selected to be the orientation team this year. They have been working virtually since probably the end of March, early April, to really build an orientation program for you that will be this fall over Labor Day weekend. But prior to that, because they didn't have the chance to meet you in person, they will be hosting small group sessions. So you will see that you have the ability to sign up, and I'm going to encourage you to sign up for a small group session. And what that is, it's an opportunity to meet with other members of the first year class, so you can begin to meet your classmates in small groups of maybe 10, 15. And you'll have an orientation leader or two that will also facilitate that group and just get you a chance to start welcoming you into our community and getting you ready and prepared for fall. So hopefully you will take advantage of that. They're anxious to meet you. And I'll echo what everyone has said today. Hopefully you're choosing Thomas because we're a small campus and we're a very personal campus. So this feels really odd to be doing, welcoming you into our community through this virtual environment, but we also are very cognizant of safety, and we want to make sure that that's the best way we can take care of you right now. But when you arrive here in the fall, we will be looking to partner with you to get to meet you in a face-to-face environment. Whatever that needs to be, mask or not, we'll make sure that we're having a good time and that you're having a good student experience here at Thomas, and we're committed to that.
Thanks, Lisa. Tom.
So what I would say is to be alert to the kinds of things that Lisa just mentioned, and she's starting to talk about how students can begin to make contacts with orientation leaders, and you'll hear the word come up again and again in all the conversations with people here at Thomas, is how important the sense of community is to what we do. At the end of every email address is a person. There's a Chris, there's a Janine, there's a Debbie, there's a Lisa, there's a Corey. There are individuals who are there whose passion is working with students, serving students, helping students succeed. That's critically important, I think, for us in the field that we've chosen and in the institution that we've chosen to work with, and in the types of students like you that we're so privileged to be able to work with. We know that this has been a very disruptive spring semester for everyone. We know that the fall will be disruptive as well. But I know that people here, the folks on this call, the folks that we work with here at Thomas, the faculty, the staff, are working as hard as they can to find out what that new normal will look like. And what that new normal is going to include will be some of the things that have always sustained us, is a sense of relationship, sense of community, dedication to student success. And those are the things that we're very proud of at Thomas, that help characterize who we are and what we do. And we're really, really excited to be able to welcome you into that community. And so on behalf of the faculty and staff and everyone on this call and the other people that you're going to meet along the way, start to make those connections, connect with the orientation leaders. And one of the things that I can promise you is as soon as you begin to connect with them, you will hear in their voices and you'll see in their expressions the excitement about what it means to be a member of the Thomas College community. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. So we have reached 5 minutes to the end of the hour, and we're not going to keep folks unnecessarily. Before we end the call, I do want to thank Abby Dooley and some of our folks from admissions for being in the background working in the chat area, as well as Crystal Levitt for helping to organize all of us so that we had a chance to focus on your questions and the things that are of interest to you right now. So unless I see a last minute question pop into the chat area, I'm going to thank the panelists for giving us their time today and let them know that they can sign off.